And we're live. Welcome to a special edition of GEEKGASM. I am this is Meredith LOUGHRAN. Let me just drop this here. And hello. So this is part of the indie event. It is a special episode of GEEKGASM. I'm still learning the buttons over here on Indie Vault because we are live streaming on the radio as well as across multiple networks. And this hour is basically kind of girl talk. It's women in comics. We're expecting a few more people to pop in here, but I wanted to kind of go around and let you guys introduce yourselves really quickly, and then when we're done with the quick intros, then we'll talk about what you're doing, and then we're just going to chat. So let's start with you, Mog. Let's get you up on the big screen here.
Wow.
That's Mog.
That is big.
A lot of Mog.
You like the ruler on my side? Upside down T square.
Oh, tell us about yourself, Mog. Introduce yourself and where we can find you real quick, and then we'll get over to Ennis.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Mog. I'm mainly an illustrator. Yeah, I do a lot of things now. I mean, I basically illustrate right now for comic covers. I've done some books as well. I did some interior books as well, and I also did some visual development for like storyboarding, background design, stuff like that for a commercial side as well. So yes, nice meeting you guys. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, Meredith, for inviting me.
All right, and we're going from Mog to Ennis.
Hi, I'm Ennis Iskander. I'm the writer and creator of Ava. I'm currently got my first issue on the Indiegogo in demand. It's illustrated by Timothy Green II. So yeah, thank you for having me on the show, Meredith.
You need to work on your pitches a little bit better, man.
I like the purple.
I'm trying to find stuff over here. I'm like, keep talking.
Keep talking. Well, I didn't want to be hogging the limelight for too long. Do you know what it is? It's more comfortable when we're a small rectangle, but when we kind of, you zoom us in, it's like we want to talk as fast as possible just to get out of being focused on. Like we just want to get out of the big rectangle. This is more comfortable. If you want us to talk more, just keep us small.
Yeah, because I personally don't have my face on this morning. It was kind of funny because I was up until about 3 or 4 o'clock this morning, and I basically rolled out of bed and I looked. And Rob's playing in the background. We're going to invite him on here and give him a hard time.
Hopefully he's put his face on as well.
He did. I mean, Rob, you need to come on screen so that we can see you in your attire here, because it's got like that whole, Chip and Dale's kind of
I was actually teasing him earlier because he was wearing a T-shirt, and I said to him, "You're not wearing your shirt and tie. Where is it?"
I know. It's like, what's going on with the tie?
Oh, hello! Shirt and tie and a waistcoat.
And we're just waiting for the,
You make a joke, but literally in the other interview I'm doing, so I'm sitting there, and since this is my son attacking me. So as I'm doing that and getting ready for the show, he's starting to ask. I'm asking him questions. I go like this. And all of a sudden, I feel rips on the in the middle of asking him, because I guess I've been working out my back a little bit more to strengthen it because of the injury. And right there is just enough muscle where I broke it. I'm like, I hope that didn't get picked up on air.
I know. It's like, what was that, Rob?
Obviously, you don't have any Velcro fastenings.
Yeah, it would have been embarrassing. And that was like, we just got off. Gamal is a great guy, a brilliant mind. You want to sit in a room and you want to be as professional as can be. I'm telling Meredith, I don't get nervous before interviews. That one, I was like, oh no, I'm sweating. I'm like, don't say anything stupid. Don't be stupid. Don't say anything stupid. The first thing when I ask a question, put my arms like this, all of a sudden, really? Like, this is the moment. Okay. But I went on, I did the whole show, even made Jack's popcorn. So it was, but the shirt, yeah, I was wearing a T-shirt. So that's actually technically his show, not mine.
All right.
And you never go on someone else's show to host.
Well, I was just teasing you because, you know, I know you had been told not to wear your vest, which I think is your signature, you know, attire for your shows, you know.
Let me tell you, they don't trust Meredith and Ines. They were trying to convince me to come on shirtless today. They were in the back room. They were offering me money. They were like, "No, Rob, come on."
I got $1 here somewhere.
Mog, it was just unexpected. It was a really hot day, and you just couldn't help but, you know, be mesmerized by the vision. It was very hypnotic.
My AC broke, and I continued to be a professional and do a show no matter how hot it was. 87 degrees in my house, literally a water fountain coming down my back.
And it was nice because you were like, you know, really taking things seriously. It was purely innocent, you know, you were just really hot and you were just trying to get through that broadcast, you know, and I could tell how uncomfortable the heat was. And everyone's just, you know, we're having a field day.
I came this close to opening an OnlyFans after that.
But yeah, so I just I really appreciate you guys being here, just kind of chatting. Again, it's girl talk, it's fun, and you're in the comics industry. But I did want to, for those who don't know us and who haven't seen us kind of goofing off in previous broadcasts and things, I want to know about the start, where you got started, because most people that I know, because I come from more prose and, you know, I worked in a newspaper business and I've worked retail and my family had a small business and things like that. So I come up with from a background where comic books wasn't an industry that I even thought was like a real business, but the more that I'm learning about it, I find that it really is, and there's so much to it. And so I'm very excited about starting this process. So I've kind of taken on this, you know, the comic noob thing, because I'm working on my first book, and I'm almost 50, so I'm really excited about that. But Enes, I know that you have a fashion industry background.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I went to art school, and, you know, I always, since the age of 8, I was always illustrating, you know, fashion models, you know, doing the design, the clothing design and the accompanying makeup and everything and the shoes. So I was always like, design was in my blood. So I ended up going to, you know, sort of university to study fashion, and I worked in the fashion industry for 15 years doing sort of different multi-products. Sometimes it was sportswear and other times could be even evening wear. But then what happened was, you know, sort of I had to work from home because the business I was working for sort of closed the office. So I started freelancing in 2012. And then along sort of basically I had the time, I wanted to get back into screenwriting because I did a little bit of writing when I was younger. And I really wanted to get back into it. So I went to the Metropolitan Film School near Ealing Studios, and I did a screenwriting course. And then basically I always had this idea kind of for, like, it was 80s, 90s nostalgia, you know, all the things that I grew up with, you know, and created my own cocktail. You know, I loved, as well as sci-fi movies, I loved dance movies as well. And, you know, I just wanted to do sort of my version of an epic sort of sci-fi, sort of fantasy fiction film. Like, you know, I'm a big fan of Blade Runner, so it was kind of incorporating the cyberpunk. You know, you see her, she's in her costume. I absolutely love burlesque. So, you know, it was all my loves, like, just all knocked into one. And then, so it was my mentor at the time. He, you know, at the time I was going to the London Screenwriters Festival, and they encourage you not only to write, but to also produce your own stuff and produce your own short films. Because mine was a sci-fi, my mentor said to me, actually, you know, you've got your fashion art background. You know, why have you thought about producing a comic? And that way, you know, that you're not restricted to budget. You can go wild with your imagination. and do everything you want to do, especially because the way I write is very sort of visual, and it's very stylized. So so I came up with, you know, loads of mood boards and everything, and I absolutely loved like Aeon Flux when I was watching her on MTV, and I just loved how different she was. She was just not the usual kind of archetype, like female heroine. You know, there was something just different. There was some masculinity to her, and she didn't care, and she was everything that, you know, I wanted to be, sort of thing. And that stuck with me. And when the film came out, Timothy Green did the accompanying graphic novel, and it was through that I contacted him through DeviantArt, and I basically pitched my project to him. And I said, you know, I'm a big fan of Aeon Flux, absolutely loved your work. Do you know any illustrator who is as good as you, or, you know, would you like to work with me? Mm-hmm. So ever since then, you know, we've had a really good relationship that we've basically worked through email and Skype, and, you know, just thrown our project back and forth. And then eventually, you know, it finally got finalized, you know, and here we are. You know, it's on Indiegogo and it's on In Demand. We reached our target, and it's going to be on indefinitely. We're also thinking about issue 2. So yeah,
I was actually going to pop this up on the screen for anybody who's got your cell phone. This QR code goes directly to her Indiegogo In Demand, so that if you've missed on Ava, get it now. Get it now while it's in demand.
Does it still work if you've got the little picture in the middle? Really?
I tested it. I even tested it. So
really?
So anybody, and we've got Ennis tomorrow, where we're going to be sharing the QR code as well. But this is going to be on the replay. I've got one for Mog too, but we're gonna give we're gonna give the mic over to you and let you talk about some of your illustrations and things like that, because you've got quite an impressive resume yourself.
You mean me?
Yep. Yeah, you. Me? Speak, woman, speak.
What do I say?
Well, I mean, some of your illustrations, though. I've seen some of your work. You've been doing the comic book circuit and everything. You've been drawing. Tell us about the genesis of you as an illustrator. Where did you get your start, and how did you kind of get into comic books? Was it purposeful? Was it accidental? You know, what was your pathway?
Okay, so growing up, just like, I guess, Ines and you, Meredith, I think I had an inclination to imagination, but it was very suppressed because I was growing up in a very Asian kind of surrounding, and they don't really, that's not very important. It's just study. You gotta study, you gotta achieve, you know, certain goals, you gotta be practical, you know, all that stuff, right? So I wasn't really exposed to art at all. The only thing that was allowed was like music, because, and, you know, it had to be only classical music, because that served a purpose in some way, because it's good for your brain and stuff like that. So, and ironically, my mom was a child psychologist, so she was really into like child development and all that stuff, you know. And I don't regret any of the education, but it didn't really help me in the art, because I didn't really start really picking up a pencil, believe it or not, until I entered college.
Wow.
Yeah. So the thing is, when I got to college, I grew up in South Korea. Okay, so Korean system is one of the most ruthless, cutthroat. They kind of compare it with like #1 education, along with the Icelandic people, but this is a very regimental kind of society. So if you fail a college entrance exam, your life is pretty much over.
Yeah.
And you only have like 3 or 4 slots that you can actually put in. And I tried all majors. Like, first it was medical, second was law, third was linguistic, which is government. And I failed all three. And there was only one slot left, the fourth one, that you can put in. And I remember when I actually got, at the time there was no internet. I mean, there was internet, but it was cheaper to call by phone and say you failed or not. So I got the result, and my mom's like, what am I going to do with you? Because you failed everything. and then what happened was I said, well, to be honest, I've always wanted to do art. And she's like, oh, well, I mean, it's the last slot, what do you have to lose, man? So I couldn't. I put in the slot for the art, and then I actually, by some miracle, I passed and I got into college through art, which I had no skill developed. I got into by sheer luck and sheer academics, because I was so good at written exams and stuff like that, that I passed through flying colors. And then I just got in, and I just suddenly was thrust into this art world. But until then, imagination-wise, the only outlet I really had was books. I read lots of books because that was the only thing that was permissible in the household. And comics was not permissible at all, because that was considered like junk art, like trash. You know how especially in Asia, it's more so, which is weird. But now I'm sure it's completely different. Right now, it's like art is more out in the front and it's more respected. But back then, it was worse. And
it was like cartoons. It's like what was that? It was junk. But
well,
see,
like,
my mother's Korean. She grew up in Seoul, Korea, and so she's an immigrant. She came to the United States and she got her citizenship. I think 7. But so I remember just kind of growing up in a multicultural household where school was everything, and I was like, I didn't feel like it, maybe it was rebellion or whatever, but they always, my sister always had the straight A's and she never even tried. I was just like, let her get it. I'm just going to go do my own thing. So I'm kind of like the odd child. They don't quite know what to do with me because they're like, what do you mean you're writing? What do you mean you're podcasting and stuff like this? What do you mean you want to act? And they didn't know what to do with me. So I was perfectly happy to let my sister get all the straight A's and take the academic pressure,
Yeah, it was the same for me going into fashion because, I come from a family of doctors and lawyers and, sort of my dad just said to me, well, I don't know that many fashion designers apart from the famous ones. So, there's only a handful, it seems like there's only a handful of jobs out there. How are you going to make your way in the world? And what people don't realize is that, there is masses of fashion designers that are in the, sort of background, sort of working for manufacturers, even for the designers. The designers don't always actually do the work. We're the part of the minions that, do all the, the hard work, and they just take the credit for it, as long as we're adhering to their signature style. And they do more the creative direction because, they've gotten to that stage in their lives where they can take a back seat to it all. But, so it was pretty, definitely the black sheep of the family.
But, I've always been curious for people who do fashion.
Yeah.
Like, were you that kind of kid where you wanted to only wear what your taste was and you didn't give a crap what other people thought? You wanted to make a statement? Is it like that?
Yeah, I did wear some weird things. But, I thought it was cool at the time.
You know what I was subjected to? My mother, in her quest to save money, decided, because this was back in the late 70s, early 80s, where perms were big. And my mother decided that she was going to save money, and she did a perm for me because I insisted on having curly hair, and she used the smallest curler.
Oh no!
She used the smallest curlers, and I knew as soon as she took out that first roller that I was going to have an afro, and I did. And I
Have you got
never.
a picture of it? You've got to like
I
share
do
it.
somewhere, and it's huge because my hair was this long. I go from extremes. I go from really long hair to really short hair because I don't.
Wow, that is long.
I donate my ponytail usually, so I'm waiting for it to be a little bit healthier. But I'm getting kind of old, and they're getting to a point where like, you have too much white hair. We don't want it anymore. So
they can't even dye it.
Yeah.
But so when it came to fashion and things like that, it wasn't because I wanted to, but I started sticking like crazy ass things in my hair. Just to say I did this on purpose, even though it wasn't. It was just I was horrified, but I didn't know what else to do. So I was making my own statement, but it was out of necessity.
Oh, I did loads of things with my hair. I mean, I remember like, you know, I even bleached the sides of my fringe, you know, because at the time it was like Vanilla Ice did it. It's cool. So I bleached. I even went through the phase of using sun-in, and instead of going blonde, my hair went ginger. And what else? Oh, hair. Like I think one day I thought it was really cool if I could dye my hair purple. And I'm telling you, if no one compliments your hair, you know, because you've dyed it this really ridiculous color, it's probably because it looks so bad they just don't know what to say.
My God.
But yeah, no, my mum used to make clothes for us, and I think I just found it really so beautiful to be able to create clothes, and I love dressing up. And you know, even from the age of 11, I was actually sewing. You know, I was in primary school, and I was like on the sewing machine making clothes, and you know, so I was a bit of a prodigy. I think I'm not so good at it now. I mean, apart from the fact that I proudly made 3 pajama bottoms for my daughter the other day. Oh, actually, so it's just that sense of achievement. But like now, it's more, you know, I'll sit in front of the computer and I'll design sort of like a garment, and I'm working on a project for like currently it's just my personal project, you know, of my take on the latest Adidas fashion, and sort of being inspired by Billie Eilish and her like kind of signature badass, you know, I don't care, sort of also mixed up with Beastie Boys, you know, sort of that 80s kind of you know, sort of like graffiti scene, you know, things like that. Just yeah, a lot of 80s nostalgia. You can tell I'm a child of the 80s.
Yeah, we're gonna bring back the leg warmers, guys.
Oh, absolutely, and leg warmers all the way.
I wonder if Mog has a Valley Girl accent.
Oh no, here we go.
What's that?
Did you ever watch Clueless?
Yes.
And all the little sayings. I actually downloaded a list of some of the Clueless quotes.
Oh my God, like totally.
Well, there was what? As if.
As if. Oh my God, like gagged me with a spoon.
Oh my God, I am totally bugging.
Oh.
Or, okay, so he is kind of a Baldwin. Okay, that wasn't done in a Valley Girl. My Valley Girl accent is terrible, by the way. I used to have a slight American twang, but I've lost it now to the Britishness.
Okay.
Oh my God, so funny.
Some other quotes was, she's a full-on Monet. It's like a painting, see? Up close, it's a big, what's it? From far away, it's okay. But from up close, it's a big old mess.
Oh, no.
And you know what? Actually, if anybody is watching on the live stream on YouTube, I've got a QR code for Mog Part 2. We're going to put that up here. So, whoops, let me get rid of the comment here for a second. We'll get to you, Carl. I promise we'll get to you. If I can find the comment.
I took care of it for you.
Thank
It's all
you.
done.
So yeah, so this QR code here, that will take you to DeviantArt. Mog, can you are you taking commissions and things like that? What are you doing?
Yes, I am taking commissions, but I have a lot of projects, so you might have to wait a bit. If you're okay waiting for the finished product, yeah, please hit me up, man.
See, I love this photo of you because I'm like, why so serious?
You look so cool in that hat. You
Yeah.
look really.
Thank you. Actually, that was a party I attended. It was an 80s fashion party.
See?
That is one of the Blues Brothers.
And then, yeah, I actually found I went to like Goodwill or something, and because I only had a day to attend to the party, so I just tried to buy like props and everything, and then I liked that hat, so I just plugged it in and I attended.
Well, I wanted to thank everybody who's chiming in here over on the chats. We're not going to put everything up on the screen, but Marvi Artwork, thank you. We've got somebody, I think your name is in Russian, so they're saying, how are you guys?
Yeah, I think his name is Alexandre.
Yeah, it could be. I remember watching like one Russian movie, and I was just like, I can read Russian now.
Yeah.
No. Pops Banzant, Phil Locklear, thank you guys for tuning in. Glenn Ford, Carl Witzman, Gary Henderson, everybody's saying hello. Thank you guys for tuning in. We're just it's just kind of girls talk. We didn't really have a topic or anything like that, but we just kind of, I love seeing more and more women in the field. I'm finding more, but I feel like I have to dig and find you guys. It's like the gems in the rough, and like come out and sit with us and talk. I know that KRYSTA, she said that she was having some technical difficulties. Otherwise, she would be totally handling the boards here and hosting. But yeah, I mean, where are you guys all hiding?
It is actually nice to see. I mean, I didn't realize when I was coming into this, it was initially, I mean, first I was really lucky to find Timothy because I wasn't really part of the Facebook scene, and it's only just like through doing the comic that I've met so many people. And it's also nice to see other female creators in the industry and getting to know them and being part of a family, a sisterhood, because, we're in the same boats, and it's nice to sort of hear how other people are getting on, and knowing that there are women out there who are into comics and being creators, and illustrators as well. So it's yeah, I mean, I know it is really hard, and I think maybe there should be more of a forum, sort of to encourage more women to get together. So yeah, I know Pops has done a ladies takeover. It was a bit bless him, it was a bit hair raising for him.
And I know that GEEKGASM, that Lola is really trying to get this to be more of a women's forum. Wednesday nights at 9 o'clock, GEEKGASM on Indie Vault. Yeah. But Mog, you've been doing illustrations for a while. I mean, is it mostly men? And the other perception, I guess I want you both to touch on is, do you find that other women creators are kind of catty? Do we tear each other down?
Okay, in the industry that I worked on before, it depends on the industry, I think. And like commercial industry, it's very competitive, and it has nothing to do with, I think, women or men. It's because the fewer the choice of the position, it just creates more intense drama, I think. Like, just like in sports world, right? Or even, I guess, modeling, whatever, like, it's only a few percentage, there's a position for that. And it is you have to have that mentality, like, you gotta really just be on top of everything. It's like a razor's edge. However, going back to the question you asked, like, how did you get into it? Like, is it accidental or purposeful? Like, for me, I'm kind of an exception where I'm always somehow accidentally getting into an industry. So the commercial thing, I really did not ever like imagined or wanted to go into, but it was them who approached me. So the other exception of not being into that dog world is you just gotta do a good job. if your stuff is good, it's gonna naturally get noticed, you know. But then now here's the funny thing though. Once I actually started working in that, right? Everybody is, the bigger the project, the bigger the prestige or whatever notoriety, the more everybody is super nice. It's weird because in a way, because it's such a huge, the more people that are involved, production, it's so true. And I thought I was the only one who thought that. But there's this famous writer called Orson Scott Card, who wrote Ender's Game. He actually found out himself too. He thought this would be like a ruthless dog-eat-dog world kind of thing. But when he started to work with production teams, everything was working so nice, and they were really nice people. Because at the end of the day, people only want to work with people if you're nice. So in the beginning, like, you can be good and all that, but then even like my other friends who work in the commercial industry, they're like, yeah, like after a while, if you're just kind of an asshole and you can't work as a team, they don't want you. You're freaking out. So you need to have, that's what I really learned, like working more in a team setting, like a team goal, like a production team, the less ego you have, the better. Because art direction, they're like, here's a sentence, here's the line, you gotta do, just draw it. I don't care what you are, blah, blah, blah. This is the deadline. This is let's work together, man. You know, communication, let's keep it open. But if you're a create stink and all that, like, oh my God, you criticize me and stuff like that, they just drop you. They don't say anything bad. They just drop you. That's the big sign, you know?
Yeah. Goes.
So, yeah.
Well, and I think that the interesting thing too is that you took an opportunity where you could have very well said, you know, like that Korean culture, the Asian culture, again, being like, oh no, that's beneath me. You very well could have said that and done that and been on a totally different trajectory. But here you are. I just find that fascinating.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just happy if I get, you know, like if I can make a living just doing art. That's just my dream. Like, the only dream I always had envisioned since I was a kid was I just want to be left alone in a room, like this attic here, and I don't have to deal with people, and I just gotta do art, and I get paid for it. That's it. But the ironic thing, the biggest mistake for anybody starting out, I think, is the more it's about you, in a way that's gonna, what do you call it? You're jabbing yourself in the foot or something like that. It's about the people, the fans. It's funny because the more I'm progressing in my career, the more I'm talking to people like yourselves. You know, you guys are lovely. The more I need to expand, like socially. That's the funny part, and yeah, that's a bad dream to have. Live, you know, working by yourself in an attic, so people will leave you alone. That's not good mentally. but inertly, like, if you are that kind of type of person, you gotta fight it. It's hard. I don't know about you guys. I don't know how social you guys are. But
I was never social. But Ennis, I'm gonna toss the mic back to you because you know, fashion industry, you think very catty, and then comic books again.
Yeah,
it's almost like you know, like what was that show? Big Bang Theory. You know, a girl walks into a comic book store and she's like the unicorn. That's kind of changing now. At least I feel that way, and maybe because I'm getting a little bit more involved. But how is it that you feel about that, and what have you kind of witnessed and experienced?
Well, I mean, it's sort of, we'll start off with, I mean, with the fashion industry, you know, sort of, it all depended on how good your manager was. You know, I had some bad managers and I had some good managers. The bad managers I found encouraged a pack mentality, and then there'd always be one person in the doghouse being basically ready to be slaughtered. And then you'd have like a good manager where, you know, we were kind of like a team and we worked really well together and nobody had any egos. I mean, like, some of us weren't like best friends, but we got on and we would go to lunch together once a month, you know, and so and that was a really good experience. And so I was always a bit of a loner, you know, growing up, you know, because I really enjoyed sort of doing my art, and I really didn't feel like, why should I have to talk to people when I'm so happy sitting in a room by myself drawing? And it's only as I've gotten older that I realized you can't just do that. You know, you have to interact with people, because sometimes you have days when you're not inspired, or you need to take a break, and being with people actually gives you that inspiration, or like, you know, you sparks a new idea just by talking to somebody, and you're like, oh my God, I didn't see things that way. And also, like, if you're getting your work out there, you know, you really have to talk to people, and also it's not about you, because, you know, especially with bringing out a comic, at the end of the day, it's about you know, catering to your fans, making sure that they're happy with your product, and they're happy with the story, and sometimes they give you feedback, and you respond to that feedback, and it's such a really good relationship. And yes, you know, sort of going back to the unicorn, and I think initially sort of I did, because I just thought, oh wow, you know, like how many other women out there, and am I really a unicorn, you know, sort of in the comic book shop? But I've been to Forbidden Planet in London, and it was like a research trip, and I was really astounded to see that there were like adults, you know, both men and women, just really like spending hours in there, and they were just, I mean, it was an entire basement, massive basement full of comics, and it was just like a wonderland for grown-ups. And so, you know, it just felt like, wow, I feel like I'm at home here with all my fellow freaks.
I think that's the impression that I get, like, is like, following, you know, finding my fellow freaks. I love that.
Yeah. But like, you know, at the end of the day, we're not freaks at all. You realize you are an artistic, you know, person who's a creative soul, and you're not the only one out there. You know, there are fellow creatives and people who love comics and illustrating as well. So yeah, so I just want to clarify if anybody gets offended by that term. I say it with
I embrace it. I don't know. What about you, Mog? Do you embrace the freak?
Yeah, I gave up I gave up about 10 years ago, man. I mean, I don't know. Did you guys grow up hearing comments like, "Man, you're weird"? Like,
yeah, you're not normal.
Like, yeah, all the time.
You're not like everyone else, you know, like everyone was getting drunk, and like, you know, you know, you just be happy drawing, and sort of, and they're like, you know, why are you so different? You know, why, you know, and it's, you kind of, before it was like, it really made you feel bad. Now you realize that, you know, you're basically, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just a creative, and in a way, it makes you slightly extraordinary. So,
but when I was growing up, though, it was heartbreaking, because I just didn't fit in with any of my, you know, I wanted friends, and I just it was like I didn't fit in, you know. I had my Korean relatives were like, "Oh, you're like the fat American child," and the American relatives are like, "Well, you know, you're Korean." I mean, yeah, and the funny story that I have, you know, and it took me a while to embrace this, but Mog, you know, my name Meredith, the R and the TH doesn't exist in the Korean language. So I mean, like, I think I was in my 30s when I turned to my mother and I realized this with the Korean language. I said, "Mom, what did you call me? Was I the child that shall not be, you know, whose name shall not be uttered? I mean, like, what the hell?" And she's like, and she stopped, and she had to think about it, and she started laughing, and then she told me to get the hell out of her, you know, she's like, "Get the hell off my lawn," you know, like one of those moments. And I was like, "What were you thinking, Mom?" You know, like, what did you actually call me as a child? So I embraced the weird just from that. I was like, I was born that way, you know. I had no choice.
I think it is usual when you come from when you're part of two different cultures to feel a sense of duality and a sense of being torn between the two worlds and not actually fitting anywhere. And it is you do feel like a sort of, it's like you could try to find a pair of shoes that fit and there's nothing there, and
you're a transplant too, though.
Yeah,
you're a transplant to England.
Absolutely, because I was born in Baghdad. I came to the UK, when I was 3 years old. I didn't speak a word of English. It was just Arabic. So for me, it was just crazy, that, I remember going to school, and it was kindergarten, and I did not know what people were saying. And then sort of a year later, completely forgot the Arabic.
Yeah.
Were you guys like bullied at school?
Oh yes.
Yeah. There was. I grew up. This was 80s England, and there was a lot of racism. So I remember being called a whole lot of different, especially because I was in an area that there wasn't a lot of immigrants. So we really stuck out. So, there were all sorts of words that, I even got called the N-word, which is crazy, and it's now you cannot, there's zero tolerance, for it. And people are a lot more, there's a lot more immigrants now. So there's zero tolerance in schools, for children to behave that way. But yeah, it did really upset me because I hated feeling different to other people. And sort of my mum was a little bit strict. So, I remember like there would be like a camping trip, an overnight camping trip. All the class went except for me. And but the thing is, I managed to get my mum. It's like, well, if you're not going to let me go on this trip, can I have the money? And then we can go shopping, because I want some compensation here.
Yeah.
So I had a shopping spree instead. But yeah, I just all the time got fed up of being different, But now I embrace the difference,
What about you, Mog? Because you moved to the States, so English was a second language for you.
Yeah.
How old were you, and like what was society like for you?
Well, my dad worked in the government, so since I was a child, I actually traveled all over the place, like Australia, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Russia, all that stuff. So I was always like duality world.
Mm-hmm. When were you in Saudi?
When I was like freaking, I think I was an infant, and until like 3 or 4 years old. Since I was born, I just was shipped around.
So was that in the 80s, 90s, something?
Yes, the 80s. Yes.
80s. All right.
It was pretty harsh. I think it was pretty strict back then. But
yeah, I was there from 89 to sort of 94 or something like that. So it was back then. It was really strict. But you were very small, so you didn't get to. I experienced my entire teenagehood there.
Oh God. I just remember, though, even as a kid, sometimes you have these weird memories that stays in you because it's so weird.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the ladies that our neighbors. It was an apartment complex, and they always wore black, and they freaked me out because they were like, it was like a white wall, and then they all wear black from head to toe, shrouded, and they congregated like crows. Yeah. And it was freaking me out. Like, even as a kid, I was like, man, that's scary.
I can see how that plays to your imagination.
Have you ever drawn like a nightmarish scenario of that?
No, the thing is,
I imagine that you would.
I don't know.
You know what she's going to do tonight.
The other point that I want to ask you is like, I didn't really I did get bullied because of racism, but I wasn't aware of it. Like, and once I realized that's how you react, like it doesn't faze you. Like there was one case where I was living in Australia, again in the 80s, so racism was even more prevalent. And it was more like the outskirts of the city. So, you know, countryside people are more, you know what I mean? Right? So when I first went to school, I was the second only Asian kid there. Okay. And the first day I got, and then all these white kids, because of course they're white anyway. So they all suddenly came all the way out. Every single person in that school came out. And then they started to do a ring around the rosy around me. Oh. And they say, they're calling like, you monkey, yellow skin, all that stuff. But the funny thing is, they were all laughing. So in the beginning, my language was not that great. And I was like, oh my God, everyone came to greet me.
Lost in translation.
The expression is so happy, you know? So all I did was, I actually jumped I was like, yes. I was like this. And then they immediately stopped the bullying.
Yeah, they took it away from
you. They just want you to cry.
Yeah, and they want to see you hurt. And when they see you hurt, they've achieved their goal.
Yes. And then when I was giving the opposite reaction, it worked 100% of the time. And that's when I learned, like, man, so even to this day, if somebody insults me, I'm like, oh man, thanks. I don't realize it. That's
it's like, oh, you something mean. It's just like love.
Wait, is that all you got?
So
is that all you got? Don't give up the day job.
I don't know. I don't know when people insult me, because I'm like, man. So I always, like, after you think about it, it's like, oh crap. But it never happens again, because you don't give that reaction that they want. That was the key. So what I wanted to ask you, that's why I asked you, like, were you guys bullied? Did you guys, because of all that, you know, negativity around you, like, did you learn to, like, just become, yeah, whatever, man? Or like, do you hold it in, like, oh, like that?
No,
I kill people in fiction. I mean, people ask me, they're like, oh, you're just, you know, you're smiling and you're so pleasant. I'm like, no, don't mistake professionalism for, like, I'm killing you in my mind.
Oh, wow.
Like bloodletting all the time.
You're like, deep down, you're Homelander from the boys, you know, like you can zap them. You have like this kind of sinister grin. And you just,
I've only let that monster out a couple of times, and it scared people, and I was just, no, back down.
Wow,
no, I mean, I'm now like, I mean, sort of, I remember this was sort of, I think it was, 6 years ago. It was around the time when the English Defence League were protesting in London. And so me and my mum were like just walking by. I was pregnant at the time. So there was a pub we walked by, and you could see one of the protesters was sat there having a beer. And my mum in Arabic said, oh, I could do with a beer right now. And, you know, this guy was like, in English, like, you know, you're in this country, you have to speak English, you know. And I, you know, sort of, I just thought, like, you know, do I sort of stand up to this guy or just move on? And I just thought, oh, you know, I just wanted to say to him, your mama must be really proud for you to be picking on a pregnant woman and a grandma here, you know. And by the way, I speak English and I speak it 1,000,000 times better than you, so F off, you know. Because, you know, you could tell he's probably not picked up a Shakespeare book in his entire life, and I have. I've done a whole load of Shakespeare, so yeah. So, you know, you just sometimes you got to let the idiot, you know, just, you know, move on. You know, thank you. I love that film, by the way.
Taking about.
Oh, I was watching the clip in the nursery the other day.
Wow.
Oh yeah, we were having a good laugh. But yeah, no, I have recently had an issue with my neighbor, and you know, sort of you know, I was talking to my boyfriend about it, and he said to me, listen, you cannot let him hurt you. No matter what you do, he is not going to like you, you know, because at the end of the day, he has a problem, and that's potentially, he could be, you know, a misogynist, you know, he could be a sexist, and he could also be potentially racist. And, you know, all that happened was basically, you know, I had a fence post that's not in a great position, and I politely spoke to them and I said, is it possible for me to move this fence post? You know, and how about we change it and all that? And they were like, no, we don't want anything touched. You know, it could affect the sale of the house. And I was like, what do you mean it could affect the sale of the house? It's not exactly a deal breaker. I'm just fixing, you know, they did not want to work with me at all. They were just completely inflexible. And from the day one that they moved in, they just didn't want to talk to me. It was like I had some kind of leprosy, you know. And so what happened was, during the lockdown, their son was playing golf and whacking the ball against the fence. So every minute, we were watching the TV with the windows closed, and we'd hear bang. It was like gunshots, you know. And so I took a video of his grown-up son, who has a child as well. But it was just him and this sort of, I don't know if it was his sister, breaking lockdown rules, by the way. And so basically, the hostility grew. And what happened was, on 2 occasions, they had visitors and they were blocking my driveway. So all I did was I politely asked him to please, you know, I asked the visitor, would it be all right if you could move your car, because, you know, I've got a visitor coming and you're blocking my driveway. And straight away, I didn't even finish my sentence. He's like, yeah. And all of a sudden, I just hear my neighbor come out. This is a man, in his early, probably sort of retirement age, 60s, come out and scream, you know, sort of at my kids who are in the living room. Assholes, you're assholes. It's like, you want everything perfect, you're assholes. And I thought, you know, I've never in my life ever experienced that, and I felt completely uncomfortable and unsafe in my own home. And then my kids ran up the stairs, you know, saying, "Mummy, the neighbor's swearing at us." And I just thought it was insane. All I did was politely ask his visitor to move his car because he was blocking it. And, you know, it was just, to this now, I don't feel comfortable in my own home anymore, because this guy is just he looks like he's about to kill you basically all the time. And so my boyfriend went and had a chat with the missus, because he wasn't around, and just said, you know, basically that was inappropriate behavior. And unfortunately, he came around with his son, you know, basically not to apologize, but also to threaten me as well, because apparently the video that I'd taken of his son, you know, performing his little golf routine, you know, was basically against the law. So are you saying all CCTV is against the law? You know, just feeding me that BS. So basically, it was a case of I'm apologizing for my behavior, but also going to, you know, threaten you as well on top of it. You know, so what can I say? You know, it's you still have to deal with people like that, and I try not to let it get to me so much. I may take Christie's approach and start to produce a comic called well, she's got Demon Bitch, so I'm going to try and find, you know, the male version of that.
I wish she was in here, because she has a Tony, and I'm recruiting Rob. I'm like, we've got a Rob. So if you need somebody, I'm sure he'll be your you know, your Tony.
I can tell you how to handle it in New York. We have a way of dealing with neighbors like that. What you do is you go knock down their door and throw dog shit on their sofa, and you go, the next time you shit on me, I'm gonna come back and do it myself. I want to have a dog do my work. And you walk away.
I'm gonna put dog poop through his letterbox.
You know what you do? You put it in a paper bag and you light it on fire. So when they're coming out and they're stomping on it.
And in the other hand, you have to have peanut butter, and you have to lick the peanut butter on your way out. Don't make me come back.
Oh my god.
Well, on that note, ladies, we've got about 5 minutes left before it goes over to Sierra Nova Comics, who is headed by Ken Moquin. I think I'm saying his name right. But, it's been such a pleasure, and I definitely want to get you guys back on here. We want to go around the room and just, again, we're going to flash your QR code so that people know where to find you. That's the great thing about the visuals is that if you've got a cell phone and you're traveling, you can scan the QR code. It'll take you right to Mog's DeviantArt site and Ennis's In Demand with Ava. Iva.
Ava.
All right, you keep changing it. It's just like
I only changed it once.
but you keep going back and forth. It's like tennis.
There you go. That's the art print.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Wow, beautiful.
Hey, I know that I saw the
there you go.
bag. I saw the book
That's
bag.
the art print. So these
That's
are the postcards that there you go.
It's so tasteful.
Yes, it's tasteful stripper. Okay, no, sorry, I mean tasteful burlesque.
That's never been said before. Tasteful stripper. Congratulations, you've coined a new term.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I did it in an artistic way.
Yeah.
And there's the bags. Woohoo!
Wow.
I ordered
love
one
that.
each for my daughter-in-laws. So they're going to be getting Ava in the
Oh,
mail.
that's brilliant. Thank you so much. Yeah. No, I'm loving the merchandise. I want to do more, but I'm trying to calm myself down. I'm thinking about t-shirts with strategic jewels placed upon them.
I approve.
That's so that you can do the
I think
cosplay.
we should get one in Rob's size,
Well, I'm waiting for Rob to come on camera and just reveal whether or not he's got a shirt because girls have been misbehaving. We've been teasing Rob. It's kind of cute to see him blush. We can't help ourselves.
Do we have a picture from the dreaded day?
No, Meredith didn't have time.
I could find it.
The show is recorded, right?
No, it got deleted somehow. Accidentally.
No.
Somehow, somewhere.
That's not right.
Ooh.
Although I did really take Randy's consideration into he said no shirts without sleeves and no being shirtless. I found the workaround. I do this.
That would work.
Now don't tell Randy because he gets mad. He gets really mad and dirty.
What's Randy's problem? Is it like armpit hair or something?
No, I mean
it, right?
I got cleaned up today.
Landscaping in action right there.
That's right. I got pretty for the show. Just for you, Meredith.
So on that note, no, you guys missed totally what I said earlier this morning, and I don't know how I'm going to walk that back. But anyway, I'm going to put up this. Rob's dying because he knows. He was
yes.
there.
Oh, I'm sorry, Meredith. How can I get a print? The one you just.
Oh, the print. Yes. It's currently a complimentary. If you go on the Indiegogo in demand and just buy yourself the comic, this will come with it. Because I was feeling very generous at the time. Maybe a few too many glasses of wine at the time when I made the decision because I didn't realize I was going to have to go up a size on the book mailer. But yes, you take advantage while I'm in that happy mood.
Yeah, and I'm going to put your QR code up here. So
there you go.
who's got a smartphone, you can scan that and it'll take you right to the Indiegogo in demand. And as long as you have one sale within a certain amount of time, that is going to stay active, right?
Yes, if you scan that, it does actually work because I've just tested it out. And that's brilliant.
Cool. And then we're going to put up Mog's here because that is going to her DeviantArt. And she does take commission work, but she's a little bit busy right now. So, Mog, let people know where to find you and when your availability might be.
Oh, just hit me up actually through Facebook Messenger. I don't know why, but it just turned out that way where I do all my commissions and negotiation through Facebook now, which is actually pretty nifty. So yeah, like if you want any commissions or prints or anything like that, please just DM me. It's very fast and expedient. So I'll give you guys a response.
And on that note, guys, I want to thank you very much. Rob, you have anything to say or?
No, I've been sitting back, eating popcorn, listening to you ladies.
I appreciate everybody tuning in. Up next in the next hour is Sierra Nova Comics. If you are not following them, definitely check them out. They are on the Indie Vault and the Geek Insider playlist on YouTube. Make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channels and then share this out to all of your friends and things. You know, this is part of it. We want to network, we want to have a good time. And ladies, I want to thank you so much. I'm sorry that some of our other guests weren't able to make it. I know that I was a little bit nervous. Rob, I appreciate you for being my backup and losing this shirt.
Yay!
He's like my brother. It's like, oh, I gotta brush my teeth now. All right, bye guys. We're out of here.
Equal opportunities here.